the American cars still make up 10 to 20% of new car sales here in the UAE, which is it's a big chunk.
Will be one of the markets that will see maybe some competitive deals come in.
Welcome back to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very good. It's Monday, I believe. Is that right?
It is Monday.
Excellent. Yeah, all good. What are we talking about today then?
We are talking about a very topical issue, Craig. Tariffs.
You can't just say the word tariffs.
No,
we got tariffs.
We got to introduce it. You know, it's very emotive.
It's a beautiful word, tariffs.
Sounds expensive.
Tariffs. I was trying to do my best Trump impersonation.
I'm not going to try.
Yes, the world's gone tariff mad, hasn't it?
It has certainly given us some excitement the last few weeks.
Yeah. I think it's given us massive uncertainty, hasn't it? And I think that's the real challenge for the automotive industry. I think, and it's actually ironic. I was talking on the radio a couple of weeks ago about this, and I was trying to think about what's happened to the automotive industry. Even just if you think back to the last sort of 6-7 years.
Yeah.
You had COVID, which obviously impacted on multiple factors in terms of no demand and then super demand and then not enough parts and not enough shipping.
Enough cars.
Yeah, exactly. So they had complete issues around managing with COVID. We've had the influx of Chinese vehicles bringing in a much lower price point. And we've had the introduction of EVs and governments driving an EV agenda. And so, manufacturers grappling with transformation. And that's all happened in 6-7 years.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine as an automotive executive, the last thing you want to hear now is the word tariffs.
Yeah, well, it keeps everyone busy and in a job, I guess. So plenty of workshopping going on, I'm sure, at all the manufacturers. But if we cut to the chase, here in the UAE, if you're a dealer or a consumer, what do you think the next few years has in store if these tariffs play out as we sit here today? Which, just for the purpose of the recording, on the 3rd of April, Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all imported cars and parts, which is the steepest hike since 1909. So if that stays, how do you think that's going to impact us high level here in the UAE?
Well, I think if that's what we're talking about, it'd be quite a short podcast, I think, because I don't think it's going to have a big impact personally in the UAE because, we're not manufacturing cars here, and therefore we're not hit by that in terms of our costs increasing. And I think we're not reliant on American automobiles here in the UAE either. Obviously the biggest manufacturers that produce cars here are the Japanese. Mm-hmm. Then it's the Germans. The Chinese are ramping up very quickly. So I think even though there could be a couple of manufacturers that get hit, someone, as we spoke about earlier, someone like Ford maybe or something like that, where we do see prices going up. I just think, the world's going to become more competitive, I think, and there's going to be volume that needs to find a home. And I think for most manufacturers, the UAE is not going to have a major impact on the losses they're going to get from the US. I mean, just to put things into perspective, the Japanese are selling over 3 million cars into the US. The Koreans are selling over 1.7 million cars. The Europeans are 1.5 million. I mean, so it's huge numbers of cars.
Yeah.
On a good year, we're 500,000 new cars sold. So we're
total market.
Total market.
Yeah,
so
we're not per brand.
Yeah. So I think, realistically, the UAE will be seen as a place where manufacturers can put some cars, can push some volume. But I think realistically, it's so competitive, especially now with what's going on with the Chinese market. I think, they'll have to be price competitive. So if anything could be good news for the market here. So
you think some of those manufacturers are going to push more volume into the UAE, which I guess will drive down prices, and there might be better deals for consumers. Is that what you're thinking?
If you're in America at the moment, would you buy a new car now?
Well, given there's a 30-day hold on the tariffs, that is exactly what I would be doing. But once the tariffs come into place, I'd probably wait and see.
Yeah.
I'd just hold off.
And I think that's it, isn't it? I think everyone is going to press a pause button for a period of time to see what is going to happen. And I think if you're in the US, if you're a car dealer, you're probably going to pause bringing in more stock because you just don't know what's going to happen. I think as a consumer, you're going to pause that deal unless you have to buy. and you're just going to see what happens. And that means manufacturers that were going to push volume into the US. And we've already seen it. So Jaguar Land Rover paused all their volume going in. VW and BW have paused half the volume going in. So they're already starting to... But those manufacturing plants are still making cars.
Yeah.
They can't just stop and send the staff home. They've still got to produce those cars. So the volume's got to go somewhere. So I think we'll be one of the markets that will see maybe some competitive deals come in the short term while they try and push some volume.
Yeah, exactly. I'd agree with you. I think we're going to see, especially the European, the Korean, the Japanese manufacturers probably have more cars on the ground and better deals. And then I think, actually, the American cars still make up 10 to 20% of new car sales here in the UAE, which it's a big chunk. I mean, it's more than the Chinese manufacturers still. So, I think different cars, different things are going to happen. I drive down Sheikh Zayed Road and I see Wranglers, I see Escalades, and I see Ford Explorers and Ford EcoSports and these sort of things. And I think different American cars are going to have different impacts. I think the people who are buying a Wrangler or an Escalade are going to pay 5, 10, 15% more for one because they want that car. I think it's the Explorers and the EcoSports and the general SUV, small hatch, small sedan market that will be really tough. Because that's also where the Chinese compete.
Yeah, well, and where the Koreans compete. I mean, so look, I totally agree. I think, and there'll be some American muscle cars that the Chinese muscle car hasn't quite taken off yet. But I mean, certainly the American muscle car. But I think you're right. I think there'll certainly be some brands where people will pay a bit more money for that car. But I think the American market have got to wake up and smell the coffee. And even though they can protect their products against the Chinese in America, they can't protect them on the global stage. And certainly the way America's behaving at the moment, it's not encouraging partnerships across the world. So I think everyone's starting to compete, right, with the Americans. And on the car front, the Chinese, and you're right, I mean, the American market is, 20% here in the UAE. But the Chinese market's almost 10%, and that's within 3 or 4 real years of focus, right? So I think there'll be 20% in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we could see those two switch over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. 100%. And, we're going to talk about it on another podcast, but then you look at the demand for hybrid and you look at the limited amount of hybrid cars the American market have and the volume that's coming in from China with the BYDs and Tours. And you think, hang on, America, if your cars are priced higher and you don't have a good hybrid option, will people still be loyal to your brand? I'm not sure.
I think we'll have to wait and see, but I think it's going to be a different sales mix in 2 to 3 years from now and a different mix of cars on the road than what we see now. But I think in this market, it's not just about domestic sales. There's also such a vibrant re-export market. What do you think is going to happen there?
Again, maybe I'm just a very optimistic person, but I actually believe this is also good news for the re-export market because it's the same principle, right? I think we're going to have manufacturers who've pressed the pause button on the US, have got volume, are trying to find markets where they can push. And the beauty about the re-export market in the UAE, and the UAE have done such a fantastic job, is they've just made it so easy to re-export. So, yes, you can go to China and you can buy 5,000 cars at a good price point. But if you're in Africa and you don't want to buy 5,000, you want to buy 5, and you want to do it easily with someone who speaks English and pay low tariffs and tax, the UAE is the perfect place for that. So I think what we're going to see is manufacturers, again, looking at the re-export market here in the UAE and incentivizing more volume to come in. Yeah. And I think the dealers based here are very well placed to take that volume and find new markets for it. Which, again, when these tariffs are all over, will just put more pressure on the American car market because more Japanese, more Chinese, more Korean product will have been pushed into these markets where the Americans could have had an opportunity. So, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all pans out over the next weeks, months, and years.
Yeah, and I think we've discussed American cars. What about cars in general? Because when I think about the parts that go into a car, I'm sure a lot of those parts come from China, or that's where they originate from. But I'm sure some of these parts probably originate in the States too. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they do, but very limited, actually. I mean, this is the whole plan, isn't it, for America, is to bring all these jobs back and for them to make the widgets in the US. But, I mean, the data I looked at, I mean, China sells 80,000 cars into the year. I mean, Chinese-built cars is about 80,000, so it's tiny. So the tariffs on the actual Chinese cars itself is minuscule.
Chinese cars going into the America?
Yeah, okay. 80,000.
Which is nothing.
Nothing, right? Yeah. So they're not going to miss that.
Well, I think there's only a handful available over there. BYD's not there. I think it's only Polestar and one or two others, so you can even buy a Chinese-built car.
Exactly. So the tariffs on the Chinese-built cars are small, but then the tariffs on the Chinese parts is massive. So it's $80 billion of parts that are bought from the American automotive market
from China.
So
even if you're an American buying an American car, you're going to pay a lot more because the parts are coming out of China.
Yeah, and you know as well as I do, for any manufacturer to suddenly go and then build a whole new supply chain for parts takes years.
Yeah, decades.
Yeah,
because you need the machinery, the logistics, the manpower, the workforce, all of these things.
Yeah, so. If you're an American manufacturer, would you suddenly build a massive parts manufacturing plant in America to try and build parts for your cars? Or would you think, well, hang on a minute, maybe this rule might be changed in a month's time or 2 months' time?
It's interesting for a brand like Tesla, who's got manufacturing around the world, in the States, in China, and in Europe, how they might be able to really capitalize on this and make the American car stay in America and the international plant service the international market. So they, as I guess most manufacturers do, they have international manufacturing, but it's really going to create a reshuffle of how they do that.
Yeah. And I just think because these policies are changing so quickly, I just think car manufacturers will just have to wait and see a little bit before they just jump in with both feet and start opening up mega parts plants. So I think, that's those 80 billion parts. Now with the new tariffs are going to be over 100 billion, for the same parts. Where do those costs go? Well, the manufacturer obviously will absorb some of them, but some of them are going to have to pass back to the customer. But then they're competing on price with the Chinese brands, so it's a tough gig.
It's a bit of a lose-lose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough gig. So I guess as with all these podcasts, we need to think about what does it mean for here and what does it mean for car dealers.
Yeah, if you're a dealer operating in the UAE today, what would your advice be to them?
Well, I think firstly, keep your eye out for some deals because I think they're going to happen.
On new or used or both?
On new. Okay. Well, firstly on new, right? So I think there are some dealers that have got deals where they can sell brand new cars and are doing very well out of it. So I think, open your mind to that as a car dealer and see if you can get new stock from these countries where they're going to be looking to provide volume because I think there will be some deals to be had out there. So I think that's the first thing. I think secondly, if that does happen and a new volume comes in, that's going to have an impact on residual value of used cars. And, well, you're the expert on this, but what's your take on that?
Well, I think for a few American cars, it might actually increase the residual value. Things like a Wrangler or a Mustang, as they become more expensive for the new car, you might see the used car values go up. And then I think for the other American cars, you're probably going to see them go down because I think they're going to become less popular new, less popular secondhand. You're going to have the same amount of supply in the market with less demand. And then for the broader market, if we see more deals on new cars, that pushes new car prices down, which just pushes the used car price down.
Yeah, okay. So I suppose the takeout for the dealers is try and, if you can, get some new car deals because there will be some new car deals out there. B, if you've got desirable American product, nearly new American products, hold on to it and get a good price point because it'll either hold its price or appreciate.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. The more main market American product is probably going to be cannibalized by the other brands, the Chinese brands and the Japanese brands. So shift them, get rid of them quickly, and hold on to your hats, I guess, is the last bit of advice.
Yeah, I think in the next few years, it really could change the landscape of what cars we see on the road. It could change the demographic of the car park here and be interesting to see what happens.
All right, great advice. Good to see you again, Glenn.
Thanks, Craig. Have a good day.
You too.